What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. It is September 30th, 2024, last day of September, and we are doing the monthly free episode of the Monday Patron Hang here on GMG. So welcome everybody who doesn't normally get to see this. This is a sit and chat where we basically talk about the comings and goings of the tabletop industry, what's new and exciting, what's things you might not have heard of, and what stuff that is, of course, coming out in the near future. So we do mainstream, indie, everything in between here on this show. And of course we have a mailbag with the patrons where they get to ask specific questions. We'll talk to the chat, say what's up to everybody, and generally just go on for about an hour on what's been going on. So I usually start this off by going through what I've been doing in the last week or so, talking about the sort of like behind the scenes stuff here at GMG. If you're a patron, you've probably been taking part in a bunch of it or seeing a lot of it get recorded, and then it gets edited and goes out in like a more finished format to you guys. And then also stuff that's coming up. So obviously I just waved a bunch of shit at the camera just now. That is all things that are on my to-do docket for either reviews or upcoming recording sessions for like the backstage, and of course just like games I want to be playing, like this Blackout thing that you guys probably haven't heard of if you're a mainstream gamer. So first things first, let's say hi to the chat and see who's here. There's like 20 people waiting before this even started. So let's go down and say what's up. We got Mike Grimshaw here. We got Brian Krantz here. Don Chayminster's here while hobbying. I almost said hobbiting. While hobbiting is here. I imagine what would hobbiting be as a verb? Like just enjoying life, just having some tea, sitting by the pond. We've got Malev de Shinobi here. Chommy Bits is here. Gazman's here. Atragon X is here. Andrew B is here. Terrier Hale is here. 12 Neef's here. Joe Somebody's here. Peter Playing with Lead. Brian is here. John Ashley Smith's here. Zug's here. Studio Mini Realms is here. And my man Ryan Dunphy is here. So lots of familiar faces there. As of course, I think probably 3/4 of those folks for patrons. But for everybody who's on a patron, hi, welcome. I hope you guys enjoy hanging out and chatting today. And please shout out a question if you have one, so I can hopefully get through as many as possible as time allows. I will lose track of this at some point, especially when I go dig into the mailbag and answer some kinds of questions. But let's get started. Talk about what the week's been like. Last week I had a bunch of people here in the studio. We recorded some more inside tabletop stuff. We had several just kind of like fun recording sessions. And of course you guys got to see the Blood Bowl review that I did with Mike Loudon from Black Knight Games, where we sat down and talked about the Chaos Dwarfs. It was a really cool review format. It takes a lot of editing time, so I can't do them all like that. The nice thing about my normal review format, because it's just me talking to a camera, is I can edit that in about 50 seconds. It's just getting all the green screen stuff done, and then it goes and renders and it's done. Whereas doing multicam editing, I don't have an editor, right? Just a reminder to everybody watching today, it's just me. I paint all the miniatures, I build all the terrain, I do all the recording, I man all the cameras, I do all the editing, and for everyone who's about to be like, well, you should just pay an editor to do all that stuff. There's GMG, it barely exists. There's no extra staff money here for any of this stuff. So multicam format stuff takes a lot longer to do. That's why I've been trying to get like the multicam shows down to about 30 minutes when I do them, because then 30 minutes of recording time means about 2 hours of editing time, which I can usually squeeze in at least twice or 3 times a week. To get done. And as there's at least 2 shows that go out that way, because Inside Tabletop goes out that way and Grimdark Media goes out that way, and very often we have to, the pre and post Ambulatory Battle Report goes out that way too. It just eats, that snowballs exponentially into like, if I'm recording for 16 hours a week and I'm building and painting and prepping for 16 hours a week, that last 8 hours of editing and uploading has to do a lot of heavy lifting to make sure there's something coming out every day. So yeah, so that was a lot of fun. We got to play some Spearhead, which you guys will see go out next week as well, because this week is still Steel Rift and Fallout with Tactics. Fallout Factions, sorry, Tactics. Fallout Factions. Yeah, Fallout Tactics was a bad video game. No, wait, Tactics was the good video game. Brother of Steel was a bad video game. Sorry, I'm losing my mind already. And then, yeah, so you'll see some Spearhead the week after. Adam just texted me, Adam Rogers, who, if he's watching, hi, I see you. I know you. I saw your text, to come play some more Spearhead 2 and hopefully some Old World in the next week or so. And I got my schedule up and live now in the GMG guest calendar for folks who want to jump in and grab a day in October. I'm going to get the November one up this week too, so I can start planning a bit farther in the future. I got Bob coming in to play some Void Admiral this week. I can't remember what else is happening. I've already lost it. There was a bunch of other people coming in this week. I haven't looked at the calendar yet. I haven't looked at it today. My planner's now over there, so I can't look at it right now without standing up and getting off camera. So, yes, Bob's coming to play some Void Admiral, which I'm very excited about. I haven't seen Bob in a while. We played a lot of one-page rules, if you guys remember, before the summertime when I took the summer off, and he's going to be coming back in so we can hang out and play some games. He also plays Legion Imperialis and a bunch of other things. I got some Legions Imperialis on the docket for later on this month as well, which should be fun. I'm really hoping there will be some new army to play by then, too, not just my Sons of Horus, which I won't spoil any more of. But I have a large Titan Legion that I could easily add some little robot mans to. And yeah, and that was kind of it. So we got more Spearheads in. Oh, that was the thing. That was the thing you're going to see next week, along with the Spearhead game, is we started Spear Tips, which is another, that was the multicam editing thing that I did, that I also have to get edited. So Spear Tips is a new series where when we play games of Spearhead, we're going to break down those Spearheads in terms of build, paint, play. So how is the box to build if you're like a first-time gamer and you want to get into Spearhead? Or like what was the model selection like? What was the build like? What is the actual like composition of the Spearhead itself? How does it play? And then finally, like what are your best practices for like card draw, for your enhancement selection and your regimental selection, and then we play a game with them too. So this is going to be like a thing where when we do Spearheads in the future, I'm going to try and play a different faction every time. Someone else will come and play the faction they've built out through Spearheads, and then we're going to do these faction breakdowns. And so on that Wednesday next week, you're going to get 3 videos, 2 of which are faction breakdowns for the factions we play as, and then a game where we play as them. And my hope is that as we go through the course of the year, there's 25, 26 factions in Spearhead, I think. We'll be able to get them all done. That's only 12 games. Like 12 games of Spearhead, we can do the whole faction guide for every faction, and people can come in and play through it. And we started it last week, and it was super fun. So I'm going to have Adam come in, hopefully this week, and play. So I know you're listening, Adam. You're probably texting me right now, actually. I've got my phone on work mode, so I can't see any texts. I want you to come in and play your ogres, and I'll play one of my other armies. I'm probably going to do the starter set ones next, because everybody's got the Scaventide starter set. And do these like little like 3 in one day videos where we talk about the thing, we go through the army and talk about how we played with it and stuff. And everybody that did Spearheads will get to play through it like that. So I'm pretty pumped for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Chris from Lords of War Games and Hobbies is going to be coming back in. He painted up the Genestealer Cult kill team just recently. And I'm going to be playing up the Night Lords for us to play some more kill team. I've got the behind the scenes for recording a little kill team campaign I'm doing. It's like a little horror campaign for Halloween. Oh my God, there's 72 people watching on side. I went away, there's 20, and now there's 72. I'm gonna have to catch up to this so bad. I've been talking about the week that was. But that was last week. So that was what happened last week. Also, some stuff showed up. Obviously, I just waved some things in the air here. The guys at Blackout were kind enough to send along the Harlow starter and the rulebook I'll be reviewing this weekend for us to check out. And then Rob is going to be coming back in to play Blackout with me. The folks at Corvus Belli were kind enough to send along the new reinforcement expansion packs for Torchlight and for JSA. Although with all of the N5 previews happening right now, I don't know exactly if reviewing them in N4 makes a lot of sense. What I'll probably do is wait until N5 comes out, because JSA is in the new starter set. So painting these guys will get me ahead in the game. So I'll probably build these guys and get them ready to go, because there's a die OK in here that's really cool. There's a bunch of new like unit profiles, the Naganatas and stuff like that. And I'll fold that into my JSA half of the new 2-player starter set. Talked about Kill Team already, talked about Blackout, talked about N5. Oh, and then Ollie Knox, who's an absolute hero. So I love this human being. I'm not going to say I think it's his internet handle, I said. I didn't say his real name, did I? No, I said his internet handle. Okay, good. He sent me the 2 new from Fighting Fantasy novels last year, and he got me a copy of Blood Island, the Ian Livingstone new Fighting Fantasy novel, and it's autographed. Ollie, man, shout out to you. It's funny how, and like, if you guys have ever watched before, you know that I have my copy of Warlock of Fartop Mountain, my first edition of Warlock of Fartop Mountain, sitting over here on the wall, because this is the reason why I'm here. This book, discovering this book in my school library in grade 3, And in the back of the subsequent, this one, oh no, it's not there. The Fighting Fantasy book, there's an advertisement for Citadel miniatures. That's literally why I'm sitting here right now. So I have a deep and abiding love for these Puff and Choose Your Own Adventure books. This is my introduction to like tabletop gaming and dice gaming and stuff in general. And Ollie is a kindred spirit and has an equal love for this stuff and grabbed me a copy of Blood Island. I'm going to play through this with the kids and maybe do a patron play along too. Maybe Jay and I will do a patron play along where one of us kind of DMs it and the other one makes the decisions and stuff like that. That'd be fun to do maybe as like a live show. But I love these books so much. And the three new ones now, actually 4 new ones, because I think one of their kids wrote one too recently, but I don't think I have that one. They're very much in the old format. The art style is all black and white and the line art. It's pretty great. So big thanks to Ollie for that. I didn't have to do that, and that was so kind of him. But shout out to you shout out to all my Fighting Fantasy heads out there. If you guys don't know the history of that game book series, it was written by the 2 founders of Games Workshop. And is one of the reasons why Games Workshop is the way it is today, because them leaving to pursue their literary career, because they got way too famous writing books all of a sudden, and that was, I think, part of the motivation for them selling out, doing the management buyout like in the very early 90s, because they were just too busy being wine and dine and flown around the world with their millions of book best-selling Choose Your Own Adventure series. It's a reason why a lot of us are here right now. So yeah, shout out to Ollie, absolute hero. So excited to read this book. All right, let us jump in. I left off at Ryan Dunphy. Oh my God, there are so many other people here now. Jose Devilaz here. Lone Monkey Productions. PBA's here. ASL Barron's here. Jez Hunt's here. Who else? I'm just trying to see other names that aren't here. Taciturn Moose, my man Ben's here. Molly Landgraf's here. Marky Battle Bassett's here. Who else? Other names. Tom Kush is here. Andrew B, stop it. You're a hero. Thank you so much for the super chat. And then he does this every time because I'm terrible at doing this. Hi, everyone. Remember, the best way to support Ash is through Patreon. You can support as much or as little as you want. So if you like the content, make sure to support if you can. Thank you. Andrew's better at shouting this stuff out than I am. I just assume everything will work out, and somehow it has. And that's the worst. That's the worst business advice. I'm a terrible business person. Let's see if there's anything. Matt Olson's here. Colin Morrison's here. Molly Round. No, Peter playing with Red. I think I got everybody. Acrylic Chemist. I think that's it. I think that's everybody's here now. All right, let's go do some. Let's see what's going on with the chat. Everybody's talking about things. Terry House says, I need to be a little less war over here for me for the dollar to come back a little for me to stop being a freeloader. That's okay. I can completely understand how that is a problem. Zug says, woohoo, Blackout. Yeah, I'm really excited. Rob's gaming group in Toronto picked it up earlier, and I knew about it because of Austin at DRD, and Rob had started playing it, and I'd meant to get to it for ages. I looked at the digital rules, but then I managed to get my hands on this physical copy. The guys at Blackout were kind enough to send it along. So this is one of those things where everything eventually happens. It just takes my friends being like, yo, I'm just doing this now, so you can come along and do it too, and I'll just show up and have half of it painted. I'm like, okay, perfect. What else we got? Zug974 says, while hobbiting would involve smoking weed by the fireplace, eating crumpets. I don't know if they eat crumpets. I imagine there's a lot of honey and jam on them. They would eat crumpets for sure. Hobbiting sounds a small hobbying says. Malev says, my Guam has been gommed. I don't know what that means, but I'm here for it. PBA says, Necromunda gang loadouts. Do you care about WYSIWYG, or is it all about the rule of cool? I think that depends. I think that for big weapon loadouts, if you're a melee dude, or if you have a heavy weapon, or if you have a rifle, I'd want to see a different miniature for each of those things. But I think if you have a melee weapon, I don't worry about what that melee weapon is. If you want to change that between games, that's cool. And also other things like grenades and filter plugs and fields and stuff, who cares? But again, I don't really worry about efficiency so much as I worry about my model in Necromunda, and I'd rather my model... Necromunda is an RPG masquerading as a miniature game versus a miniature game masquerading as an RPG. So if you're trying to win Necromunda, you've kind of missed the point of Necromunda, I think. Jez says, awesome, I enjoy you chatting with folks. I'm currently putting together shelves because I can't stop building terrain at the moment. Yeah, I gotta build another... I have to either reorganize or build another storage unit in the back. I had, while Mike was here last week, he was like, Jesus Christ, there's so much stuff in this warehouse again. and this happens over the summer, especially because summer's convention season, because people are off and they'll travel, and we have these big conventions like Gen Con, I believe Salute's in the summertime too in the UK, the European Game Expo, like all that stuff happens in the summertime because the weather's nice and people are willing to travel. Companies like release too much shit in the summer. And people, but the oxymoron is that people aren't actually hobbying, they're traveling, and like there's a bunch of like in public reasons to like celebrate and release things, but people aren't actually consuming it the way they would in like the fall and winter when you tend to do your more indoorsy hobbies, right? Unless you're my buddy Dave Kotska, in which case, that's who's coming out on Thursday. Dave's coming out on Thursday. We're going to play some more Kill Team, if you're a patron, you'll get to watch live. We're going to play the 3-game campaign from the Hypestorm book. So you get to watch us play those games live. Dave's going to be coming in and playing that too. But if you're not, unless you're Dave, who like, Dave is like an incredible rock climber and he kayaks. Like he's like an outdoors guy, right? So, and he'll take his little Kill Team carrying case with like a couple paints and a brush with him, and his Instagram, he's a great Instagram follow because his stories are always just the picture of where he's climbing today or where he's kayaking, and then him like painting miniatures like on the water in his kayak. It's pretty incredible. Dave is a multi-talented dude. Yes, it's fantastic. Terry Hale says, I thought you had 200 employees. I do not have 200 employees. I have a addiction to coffee, which I have been trying to break earlier this year and has crept back in. I'm currently just doing water. This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to get off the coffee again. 2 small children that like living indoors and not starving to death in the dark. And that's pretty much the motivation for me to build and paint all this stuff. It's funny because the patrons notice if I go dark for a minute, it's usually because like something big I can't talk about has shown up, and I'm like Santa's elves in the back. I'm trying to get it all built and painted in like a day, which is almost constantly happening. If it's something I can talk about though, then I'm just building and painting it in public usually. All right. Malev says, I have heard of Blackout. I also have heard of Blackout, and I'm pretty excited to give it a try. John Ashley Smith says, I'm hoping the Black Knight Games will still have Steel Rift stuff in stock whenever I get up there again, with some dough in my pocket. Well, if you do get up there, and they do, then that would be super exciting. I don't know if Mike and Jay have ordered the new quick build stuff, but if they haven't, bug them about it, because obviously the value on it's super high, and it'll be a great Christmas item because it's like an instant buy. You know what I mean? Like you can play right out of the box. I think it's pretty cool. ASL Brand says, you're machine when it comes to painting. If I can paint a couple of minis in a week, I think I'm doing good. So it's funny. I mean, that is, that's one of those things where like, it's a skill I wouldn't recommend anyone else ever develop, because being able to like, it's kind of like, and I'm going to put this into a really dated video game reference, but it's kind of like when you're playing Diablo and you would put all your skills into like a couple of trees to like max them out. And I put all of my Stones of Jordan into paint kind of good and paint kind of fast. So I'm level maxed at that stuff. But I don't necessarily, it's almost like I turn my brain off when I do it. I can't tell you half the time how to replicate something I've done, because I've literally I have like a bin of paints in front of me from all different manufacturers, and I'm just grabbing stuff I know works to like get it done as quickly as possible and production lining it all. And that's because of like getting games day tables finished, or there's a bunch like, and I'll be honest, there's a bunch of people on the internet who can vouch for me, like Dave Taylor from Build Paint Play, or Jake from Build Paint Play, or like any of the guys you see at WCon, like a John Schaefer, any of us who had to build like games day displays or tables or like do stuff for a workshop, for events, like I'm sure their events team too, if we knew who they were, would be able to vouch for the fact that like you just get really good at making stuff fast. And it's funny because that skill is actually infinitely transferable. I have a bunch of friends who work in TV and film who do like set deck and stuff like that, and that's how you build a set for like a TV show. If you guys knew how the sets for The Expanse actually got made, you would lose your minds, because it's literally just garbage pinned to walls. Like you wouldn't know that, but that's actually what it is for the most part. These sets are not built with a huge amount of attention to detail. They are built like carpenter ants descending on a location, because it's costing $1 million to be there. All right. What else we got? Molly, John Smith, big mood. Oh, I don't know what that means. But ASL Baron says, when are you going to start with the Infinity N5 games and reviews? I don't have any N5 stuff. In fact, all of the N5 stuff I've done, I've purposefully not paid attention to because I'm waiting for it to be out. I had a big talk with Jordan this week, who's been like ear to the ground, absorbing every scrap. I think he's texting me right now, probably while we're doing this. He's been ear to the ground scraping for information, and it's driving him crazy. I don't care until it's out. I'll be honest. Like, an edition change for me is always more important when it's done. Like, I don't care what they change. I'm excited for the fact there's gonna be a new game. I want to see it in front of me before I form an opinion, because I'm the opposite of like internet guy who needs to be like an authority on everything or like have the inside skinny. I don't know if you know that, but I'm terrible at being that person. I've been doing this for too long, and like I have too much respect for the people who make these games that like hypothesizing is just chasing views. Like, it's just for nothing, or getting irate about stuff is just for views. Like, I don't give a shit about that. I gotta keep that view count down. I gotta not hypothesize. I'm just gonna wait till the actual proc's out and then tell you what my actual opinion is after I've interacted with it. I will say that as a Warcore, though, I put in to order an advanced copy of the starter set, which I think is exciting. I'm not surprised they're not doing a rule book, I'll be honest. And the reason for that is they really struggle to get rule books in English language done properly. It's a lot of work for them. I don't know what the disconnect is. I suspect it's a blend of business and creative struggles. Because I think their creative team wants to work in Spanish, which I don't blame them for. They're a Spanish company, and they really struggle to let the reins go, having English language people involved, even just in like the making of things. The big evidence of this is the Warcrow rulebook, where the rules section, which is about 60 pages, is incredibly well done. It's in perfect English, and it's well defined, and they clearly had someone from the outside do a full translation of it and vet the thing. The other 200 pages of background is just gobbledygook. Like, it's like ChatGPT. It's like badly ChatGPT translated. There's run-on sentences. The abuse the Oxford like comma gets in that document is unbelievable. They start every other sentence with a capital "and." It's not great. And so to do a big rulebook like that, I think is hard for them. And that's sad, because I think that in Infinity in particular, they have a really cool world that they could build on. But I think keeping it a digital rulebook is just a loss. It's keeping the loss of not selling rulebooks down for them, and they're just trying to go fully digital, which makes sense for a game about the far future. Like, I think that's probably just a good, sound business decision for them. As sad as it makes me that I won't own any more Infinity rulebooks on my shelf. So I guess we'll see. And how do I feel about it going fully digital? I honestly don't mind. Like, it's fine. I have one downside for this. And it's funny because Jordan and I just talked about this too, is one of the big like emotional reactions that a lot of people have when a game changes editions like this, and especially when stuff leaves, is that like emotional trigger of like sunk time and effort into making an army that might not exist anymore, or units that might not exist anymore. And that's a completely legitimate and valid emotional reaction. I think it used to be offset a bit by the fact that you could always go back and play an older game because you had the rules. You had a physical object that the rules were tied to. N4 doesn't have that because you only have the core rules of the game and you do not have the profiles. So one of the things that I know Jordan did this week that made himself feel better was he just went to the Infinity Army Builder, took every single unit profile from his armies, and printed them as PDFs. And he's just going to make booklets of all the army lists as it stands at the end of N4. Because that's the only way that game continues to exist. If someone wants to keep playing N4, when Infinity Army goes away, you just can't play the game anymore. Because there's no way to see the stats for your models, right? It doesn't exist. In N3 and N2, they used to do PDFs that were downloadable on the website. I really do wish they would go back to doing that. Just so that it could be like, just so it exists, even if it only exists in a digital form, that's great. That's kind of the trade-off we make to have this incredible free app that like updates in real time. Like, don't get me wrong, the benefits of the Infinity Army app, it remains the best army sales tool amalgamation, like, I think that a gaming company's ever done. Games Workshop hasn't beaten it. Like, their apps are not great compared to this one. They have way too many gates. They have way too many things you have to add. You can literally scan a QR code on this box, and then go to the profile information. Like, there's a QR code on this infinity box. I can just take my phone, click it, and it's going to take me to the Infinity of the Universe website that shows me all the names for all those models. So there we go. There it is right there. And then I can click through that and see what the profiles are for them too. So, like, that's living in the future. But it's also living through your phone. And it does mean that there's a certain amount of, like, this doesn't exist anymore. I can't access it when it goes away and changes. And that's scary. Like, that your game might just end and be gone. And you can't play it anymore. So some workarounds I think is going to be fun. Don Chamish says Spear Tips sounds cool. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for Spear Tips. I need to get, oh, Spud's there. Spud says hi from Tom. Okay. Hi, Spud. Hi. I miss you. Come play games. When N5 comes out, let's go through whatever emotional roller coaster we have to go through together to play some more Infinity. Don says that Spear Tips sounds cool, and I need to talk to Rob again, who I'm playing Blackout with. He did the logo for Spearheads. I want to get a logo for Spear Tips. That's kind of the same idea. But Zuck says, LOL, I responded to Ash's what is hobbiting with smoking weed by the fireplace and eating grubbits, but I bet he's going to forget that he said that. No, I didn't forget I said it. I got it. Unaided Foot says, I'm pumped to give Kill Team a try. I'm really, like, honestly, Kill Team is probably the way I'm going to interact with 40k in the future because I love painting 40k miniatures. I don't like playing 40k. It takes too long. It's like the Olive Garden of miniature games. Like, you go there and you just have this endless pasta bowl in front of you, and by the time you're about 2/3 done, you just feel like you want to throw up. Like, I can't do it anymore. 3 hours to play a game. I have like a dehydration headache halfway through, and we already knew who was going to win 2 hours earlier, and it wasn't me, and like, I just don't care anymore. Even if it was me, like, I stopped caring like halfway through the game, and you're just kind of like, you're doing it to finish it, and it's just, I don't know. Kill Team is such a more satisfying experience because you paint 10 guys, and some of them are still there at the end of the game typically. Like, almost no matter what you do, it's really hard. Whereas in 40k, you can paint 10 guys, and they're literally, you never move. They just get removed by your opponent before you get to do anything. And I'm like, then why do the miniatures matter? You know, like, the miniatures just stop mattering at some point. They just become like nothing. They become, you have less and less attachment to the world you're in, kind of the grander the scale gets. I like the camera zoomed in the way it is on Kill Team. Zug, he's just going to assume that I'm telling the world that that's what I'm doing right now. I mean, it might not be. Malev says, JFC, there are 70 completed submitted games for the for the One Box War Game Challenge. Amazing. It's at midnight tonight. Oh, yeah. Shoot. Sorry, I should have shared that out. Malev is, of course, running the One Box War Game Challenge. There are 70 One Box War Games submitted right now, and that's incredible. And yeah, midnight tonight on the 30th of September, October 1st, all submissions must be in. I really should start writing a game. I have not had time to write anything that isn't for things I'm already doing. But yes, congratulations, and I'm so excited to see what I should like collab with Malev or something like that, and maybe I could collab with. If I message Hudson, maybe we could have like a thing where I do a playthrough of the top 3 or something after they get judged, whatever the One Box War Game is. We do like a users vote. I'm spitballing here. Maybe we could do like the patrons could vote their favorite. We pick like a top 10, the patrons pick 3, and then I play through those 3. Because I can definitely do a One Box War Game Challenge. And like, we can raise the profile on them a little bit and celebrate it, and then that way when it happens next year, we could have like some reference material and stuff too. I'll paint 3 boxes of something, that's fine. Molly says, oh damn, an autographed copy. Yeah, I'm so grateful. Ollie is such a fucking hero. It's incredible. Matt says, greetings from Norway. Colin says, what do you think of the no printed Infinity rules, Ash? I mean, we can still print and bind them. That's probably what I'll end up doing. I would say that they'd be smart to put a proviso that could be printed for personal use, just so you can take it to your local printer and print them off. If that boilerplate's in the title card, then you can take it to like your local Staples or Kinko's or whatever and get it printed off and have your own physical copy, because some people like that. And I'll be honest, I'd much rather have a physical copy to flip through during a game, just because like, you're trying to do too many things on your phone at that point. If you're running your army list and looking up rules, and I get the Wikipedia is all updated and blah, blah, you can do X or Y or Z, but like people want to have a physical copy. I'm just hoping they do like sneaky physical copies that they maybe like give away at cons or something, and I can get Carlos to send me one. I think that'd be super exciting. All right, time to go to the mailbag. Oh my God, we're halfway through. We haven't even gone to the mailbag yet. I got through part of the chat. Let's see what the patrons have been chucking in here so that we can get some directions and it's not just meandering. Gary Jensen asks, Marky Battle Bassett asks, Team Aleph or Team Achilles? This really got people talking with Infinity World. How can Brad Pitt turn evil? Also, when will you get the man, the myth, the legend, the true Yu-Ching Emperor Carlos talk all things N5? If you haven't kept up to date, hang your head in shame and write 25 lines. So, for those of you who aren't Infinity savvy, one of the biggest lore changes is that everybody's favorite post-human and Achilles, who is like the poster child of the Steel Phalanx, he had his own soap opera TV show in Infinity, and he's this like big sexy icon that gets made by the shackled AI that runs the human sphere called Aleph. He gets taken over by the evil alien race that's invading. So one of the things that Infinity does really well is they kind of make it ambiguous as to just how evil the aliens are, and whether or not we're maybe the evil ones for resisting, because humanity can't get their shit together. But having this, like, he's also arguably the most powerful individual, like, gaming piece in Infinity. Having him switch teams is like a big deal. Also, just really good marketing. Like, I think that's really good marketing because having your hero character fall from grace is just classic storytelling and makes it so that the bad guys have like a compelling villain now, right? Someone that you're rooting against actively. It's also kind of just StarCraft with Kerrigan. So it's a pretty classic piece of like science fiction writing. I think that there's nothing wrong with it. I'm fine with it. I like things going away in games. I like there being some stakes. If your background doesn't have any stakes, if there's nothing that ever changes or happens, then eventually your game bloats to complete irrelevancy. What we're really talking about here is how do you take a game that has like kind of givens, like parameters of like this guy fights for this team and this guy fights for that team and these are big characters and this is how the world operates, and you're giving it a big shake. You're shaking the Etch-a-Sketch. God, I'm dating myself again with a fucking Etch-a-Sketch. I hope at least half of you got that reference. An Etch-a-Sketch was an iPad made from sand and magnetics. And basically when you reset it, you would turn it upside down and shake it to make it go away. Just keep on my mic here. And yeah, I think that the fun thing about what N5 seems to be doing is they are doing kind of a grand reset, because as a business, they had too many individual products. They've been working really hard in the last 5 years, to consolidate those products into like box sets. And they've always had a really open policy of like any miniatures we've ever made can be the miniatures that you use in your game table. So if you like a miniature and it's from this faction and it's relatively representative of a profile that's in the game, go ahead and use it. So one of the great things about Infinity is there's no such thing as WYSIWYG. And also just like the core kind of like art design of the game, sci-fi guy with rifle and cargo pants is sci-fi guy with rifle and cargo pants. If it doesn't exist anymore in the game, like if it's not easily confused with something that already exists because it was an existing profile or it has a miniature, go ahead and use something else for it and just say that you like this miniature. That's fine. You know what I mean? Like as long as the miniature you're using isn't like a thing that's available today, like go ahead and use an old thing as a new thing or whatever. Swap it vice versa. And doing a grand reset with something like having Achilles switch sides. So yeah, all the Steel Phalanx Aleph players don't use Achilles anymore. But also, like, who cares? Because everybody else is going to get to play against this really powerful grand villain now. They're doing that with the whole game. So the whole game is going to have changes like that, where factions are going to go away, new factions are going to take their space. And after a while, if you have too much stuff in your game, you can never really make anything interesting and new. You hit a ceiling for your own design space where, like, it's just another guy with a rifle. Like, I can give him this mix of skills, but there's something like him out there already because we have 1,100 guys. there's only so many variations you can come up with. So when you reset things, you can go back to things feeling unique and feeling different by limiting the amount of options again. And we found that, I think, especially in N4, we were doing the podcast for Tactical Awareness, where we were doing unit breakdowns. They would release new things, and Owen and Dan and I would sit and look at them and be like, it's good that this faction has access to this thing now, but it's kind of an analog for this thing in the other faction. So it's just bringing this faction that was unique closer to everybody else. And that doesn't feel good after a while because like you're all just playing the same faction in the end. So having kind of a grand reset where they reduce the amount of things available lets things be a bit like more, I guess, a bit more unique again because there's just less options. Kaylor says, do you think we'll ever see a variant of Infinity or Warcraft designed for like a 22 by 30 table? I was surprised to hear a local game store in a large city that had no 3x3 or 100 tables, but could fit Warcry and Kill Team due to the map footprint. It's funny, Chris and I talked about this in not this week's, but last week's Inside Tabletop, about how having these small footprint games is allowing Games Workshop in particular to cold call and open accounts with just purely card game stores. And those still exist. The board game card game hybrid that doesn't have miniatures in it right now, it has like D&D dice, board games, and card games. Miniatures are creeping in now through D&D, and that's allowing, I think, Games Workshop to call those guys and for them to be like, well, we don't have gaming tables. The people Workshop can say, the trade team can say like, oh, you don't need to have gaming tables. Do you play Magic in the store? Then you can play this game. Like our we provide the table now in the box. Warcrow plays on a 3x3, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it plays on a 3x3. I'm pretty sure it's not on a 4x4. So that's roughly small enough to fit on a card game table. And Fallout Tactics plays on a 2x3, which is, honestly, it should be 2x3. The 22x30 thing, it's fine, but it's a very arbitrary game size. It's a game size that I'm pretty sure their cardboard printer came up with, as opposed to being like, no, this is 2 feet by 3 feet. 2 feet by 3 feet is literally just a quarter of a 6x4 gaming table. And that's why I like 2x3, because it's a single quadrant of a 6x4 mat. So if you wanted to run Fallout tournaments, my plan would be go buy a 6x4 gaming mat and just cut it into 4 pieces. Go buy someone's 6x4 old world apocalyptic wasteland gaming mat and just cut it in 4 pieces. You have 4 Fallout Tactics mats. If nobody thought of doing that already, you'd buy me a beer at Adepticon next year. So yeah, I don't know if more games are going to do it. I do think it's a good game size though. I think you need to have been at the saturation point though of a Games Workshop to be looking at trying to get into those stores that don't have gaming tables now, to need to have that tactic. Basically for anybody else, it's just why? Al says, as a kid who was lured away from fantasy by Third War for Armageddon campaign, I've always found, it's ... I got nothing else here. I've always found, cool. The Third War for Armageddon campaign was awesome. Al, I don't know what the rest of your question was because it got cut off somehow. Dorn's Fist Andreas says, hey Ash, great job in the studio tour video. I love all the updates on your studio. Now my question is, will there be a great helm or other one box board games on your channel? I would love to see those. Kind regards and stay as you are. So Andreas, I think I already answered that question just now where I hypothesized that we should do a one box board game vote or something. Malev will pester me. He's really one of the most endearing things. My favorite things about Malev, who's in the chat, which you guys should all say hi to him and be supportive of his channel, his Twitch stream. Sorry, is that he's so good at not letting me drift off. I get so overwhelmed with communication, and Malev never takes it personally because he's also super busy. He always will pester me and remind me that we're in the middle of a conversation that I will completely forget about. So when I say something like this out loud, it's mostly just so that I can have Malev remind me that we're going to do something like this later and keep pestering me. I'm sure it'll happen. And for those of you who aren't patrons, we did a studio tour on all the updates. They got to see the finished soundstage and the 4 camera setup that's currently back there, which may expand to a 6 camera setup. I'm not super sure. And yeah, that's where we're at. So I'm gonna go back to the chat and see what incredible laundry list of things I've missed. Jesus Christ, there's 100 people here now. What's happening? going to go and keep reading this. Blokeout is the British version of Blackout. Oh my God, I can't go any further back in the chat right now. Molly says, I remember the day I finally finished getting the last book. I need to have a copy of them all, and it was incredible sense. Molly's been collecting the fighting fantasy stuff. Zug, Black Oot is the Canadian version of Blackout. Absolutely. That's so funny. Crookston says, greetings, Cleopatrons. Mark Langeel's here. Fantastic. I'm not going to see you at HalCon this year, man, next month. I'm sorry. Oh, Nuttall's here. Fantastic. And Jez says, thanks. Oh my gosh. Thank you for the super chat, Jez. Just to say thanks for being a force of good in the hobby and introducing us to so many awesome games. Also take a peek at Devilry Afoot. I've recently bought it and it looks fun. Okay. I will Google that right now. Devilry Afoot. Because one of the things I can always do is that when we look things up, it's in Wargames Vault. $10 on Wargames Vault right now for Devilry Afoot. Okay, it is a folk horror monster hunting handbook for tabletop skirmishes. Set during the 16th and 17th century wars of religion, Devilry Afoot pits flawed human heroes controlled by one or more players against creatures of the night whose actions are randomly determined by the game's easy-to-use mechanic. It's a solo co-op horror game for a 2x2 table. Ooh, that'd be a fun Halloween game. All right, I'm bookmarking that. Devilry Afoot. It's only $10 on Wargames Vault right now. So if you guys are looking for a fun solo co-op war game, go check it out. I have a whole bunch of plans right now for like horror-themed stuff all through October. The horror-themed campaign for Kill Team. We're going to do some, whatchamacallit, some Don't Look Back, which is also one of my favorite horror-themed slashers from Blackside Studio. And then just a couple of, like, probably House on Haunted Hill. Get a bunch of pure Betrayal at House in the Hill, because we have a bunch of, like, stuff painted for that Adam painted up. He painted up the board game pieces. And do some, like, multicam, like, filming a bunch of people in the back, probably having way too good a time and getting stupid. All right. Zug1974 says, having a background in graphic design, the ring-bound horizontal half-size rulebook seriously tickles my fanny. It's so different. I know. I don't know how this came to be. It's funny. One of the things that's like, so one of the things in the Industry that's like really good at getting creative with is looking at like printing on demand options or small print options for like, this might have been like a table card or a convention handout, like style of printing, and going, oh, if so my page count is capped at 20 and this is my layout format, like how could I write a game that fits in here? And then I can print these and sell them for $10 and they cost me $1.50. You know what I mean? Like it actually is, it's fun sometimes to start at what's the possibility for like my local printer to get these things made, and then go, how can I fit my game inside this? Like this would actually probably be perfect rulebook size for all the one-box war game stuff. It is a very handy, like, and because it lays flat because it's spiral bound, it's like super, super useful. John Ashley Smith says, I need a display cabinet. The work I've done deserves to be somewhere it can be seen, not in a cold cellar under the front entrance of my home. Absolutely. Peter playing with lead. Brian says, spend the summer buying it all and then bed down in the winter and paint it all. That seems to be what's happening. Well, I was just making up words. Okay, fine. John Ashley Smith says, that was tabletop time with hundreds of staff. I don't think they had hundreds of staff. I think they had like 4 staff, but they were all full time. That story, that's so sad. I think one of the big problems with YouTube is because it's global. Some places you can make a go at doing it for a living, and some places you can't. And you have to decide if it's going to be marketing for your business, your core business, or if it's going to be your core business in and of itself. If you're like a person in their living room whose overhead is just like streaming, and you can make great money, it's kind of like an OnlyFans. Like, you don't have to have anybody else work with you. If it's just you and you're talking into the void, and you have a tiny bit of production value by having like a decent camera and like a good backdrop basically behind you, like, there's no reason I couldn't have exactly what you see behind me in a corner in my basement. You know what I mean? But then I would never be able to do the rest of what I do. I would never be able to do the video production. I would never be able to build and paint what I build and paint, the big installations. I never have like the collection of 10 years worth of terrain that I've built that like can let me do any game at any time. Like the fact that like Blackout could show up here and I got to paint 10 miniatures and I'm not worried about having a unique science fiction / post-apocalyptic Eastern European table for you guys to look at, because I have 50 different things I've painted over the last 10 years that look like that I can rearrange to make like a cool terrain setup. But like the average streamer can just have their PC in a guest room and they can make the same money. They can make way more money on YouTube views than I do. Yeah, I really feel bad for tabletop time because I think that people they aspire to being what they see elsewhere, and it might not for their region and what, rent for spaces costs and for what minimum wage and cost of living is. Like it's different everywhere. I imagine it was really hard for them. And I hope they do okay. I hope they don't. Yeah. I hope they don't feel like they have to start doing things that they're not inspired to do to make it work, because that won't last either, if that makes sense, right? All of them will then go off and find another job in the field of what they do that can actually support them making a living, and that won't kill them. Like it's the hard reality of like doing something because it's what works for what the format is you're trying to do doesn't mean that you're making the thing that you wanted to make. And that's the real shame of it all, because that's unsustainable. You can't keep it going. Trust me, I've tried. Gaius Caesar says, yo, big fan, bud. Can't wait to see more N5 stuff. Any plans for a new faction sectorial for this edition? Yeah, so we always do a new one. Luckily, I was just working on JSA. So doing the box set with JSA will be super easy. I'll paint the Pano side too. I think Jordan's going to also paint the JSA side. And then we'll probably start with those as like the new seasonal stuff. And then I'm also going to do last season's new thing, which is I'm going to do, the Torchlight Brigade for my O12, because I have tons of O12 stuff. So usually what I do when a new ITF season starts is I carry on with a faction I was working on previous season. So it'll be Torchlight in this case, and JSA, and then I'll add a new faction. And that way I've got 3 to like kind of rotate in between while I do my games. And you guys get to see different armies in the table, and I don't get bored painting the same color all the time. Not that that's a super big deal with Infinity, because you're never painting a ton of miniatures. Like, you're just enjoying painting a few miniatures, usually each game, to, like, try things out. But we'll probably do another Escalation League. We're going to do a How to Play series with, like, the fundamentals. And I'll probably do, like, I'll probably do 2 of those. I'll do, like, a how to transition from N4 to N5 series, like, video, and I'll do a like Infinity for beginners, because a lot of what's been done with N5 feels like it's been done to try and make it more intuitive if you've never looked at it before. And so I think both those videos will be important, because one of them is going to be, hey, I can't look at these profiles because I've been playing Infinity for 4 editions and they look alien to me because they've reversed a bunch of the numbers and I'm trying to like understand how this works. But then the other side, it's going to be like, yeah, roll low. It's always good. Like you can teach a skill like that now, because there's this corner case of like your armor rolls have to be high, but everything else has to be low. It'll be more intuitive. All the game changes, like the way that they're doing critical hits, always being like the under, and then if you go over a value of 20, then your critical hit range at the bottom end becomes higher, making low rolls always good. Like all the changes seem to have been done to reinforce it being intuitive for a new person to pick up, which I think is really good. So yes, the answer is yes, and yes, and yes. And the quick start did drop today, so we're going to get on top of that. Friendman says, I broke my addiction to coffee, the tea. I know, I did tea last fall, and I'm getting back on it right now. We'll see how it goes. Luckily, the thing is that luckily it's going to be cold outside soon, so like warm drinks will be a thing, and this place will be freezing, because this is the life I live in Niagara, where it's too hot in the summer and it's too cold in the winter around here. So we'll see how this goes. Chess Hunt says, I work in costume and film and TV. I love watching the set builders and set decks doing their thing. It's like watching 1-to-1 40K scale terrain, and they do it in no time. It's insane. Yeah, Jez, Okay, so then. Yeah, I was buddies with the guy who's actually the head of the set deck union now in Toronto, and someone who's been on the channel before, Christian, works in set design now too. So getting like inside track on that was very enlightening as to how that worked. Marky Battlebass says, need to get Steel Rift and Blackout in the UK, but shipping stuff over the Atlantic costs more than the game. That's there's a distributor needed. You know what I mean? Like someone who's a distributor in those countries needs to call DRD because they can get it. Like I can absolutely get it. And that will save the shipping thing, right? It's going to come down to if a distributor picks them up or not. Because otherwise, it's the same for us as trying to. Well, it's funny because it's the same thing that for us was the problem with like trying to get Knights of Dice terrain from Australia. Was you paid for everything like 3 times because shipping from Australia to the rest of the world cost a fortune, and you're shipping MDF, which is like one of the heaviest things to possibly ship, and it came in weird shapes. So like there are certain things that's just going to be, it's going to be harder to do. But if you can get a local distributor going, I think that's going to be the thing that really makes it. Frost001 is here. Jim Crimmins is here. Hey kids, made it even though work keeps asking me to work. It's the worst. And then Molly Landgraf says, there are some hilarious phrasings in the work row lore. Yeah, it's a lot. Lamashta is here. Ren Momo says, hello, I'm excited for the Wednesday to come so I can get some 1/32 scale die-cast cars so I can convert them into death machines for one-page rules. Inspiration is the Highwaymen from Far Cry New Dawn. I like the Highwaymen. They were the ones that had the twins that were leading them, right? Far Cry 5 is still my favorite Far Cry, and the New Dawn is actually really well done. The way that it kind of continued the story. I like that game a lot. Joe Wood says, whoa, did I miss something? Are we not getting an N5 rulebook in print? They're alluding to no, but I mean, time will tell. I don't know. Jim Kerman says, just got the updated Deathship 1 rulebook from Joe McCullough. It looks like a nice, quick, fun roguelike death race game. My Kill Team Into the Dark walls should work nicely for it. Absolutely. And all different time periods, too. Steen Callant says, didn't they show a book in their latest short for the pre-order date for October 14th? Marky Battleboss says, CB are putting out PDF for all N4 profiles. Carlos said in an interview. Oh, that's great. It'll be nice that there's a PDF for the N4 profiles. I'm hoping that means that they will have a PDF for every profile going forward, though, so that the game can get, like, just kept somewhere. You know what I mean? And that will be interesting if it's a PDF for N4 profiles, if they are the N4 profiles, or if they are N4 profiles updated to N5. Because I think what Carlos was talking about there was anything that was in N4 that we're not keeping in the new edition, we'll make like a Legends profile for updated to N5. I don't know if what he meant was we'll print the N4 game profiles, because that was what I think Jordan was worried about. Yeah, but a PDF for N4 profiles doesn't mean they're for 4 and 4. Right? It could be that they're 4 and 5 too. I'm hoping they will be, though. And either way, you can just print the current army profiles and make that yourself if you need to. Jen Kerman says, my yearly dad friend con starts on Wednesday. We rent Airbnb in Western Pennsylvania, and 10 guys play games and grill for 5 days. I have 2 models left to paint for my rat spearhead. I'm going to teach it. Pumped. Oh, man, that would be such a good... I miss doing those. I haven't done one of those in years where you get like an Airbnb and you do like a cottage weekend or whatever. Those are fantastic. I should think about who I'd get together to do something like that and pick a game like Spearhead, because Spearhead would be perfect for that. Because you could like do it outside on like a picnic table. You could do it anywhere. Oh man, Friends cons are fantastic. It's like a Friendsgiving where you just do nothing but game. So good for you, man. Rat Spearhead's a lot of models too. Dawn says, I'm 47 years old, man. I do not have time for a 3-hour war game. That's it. It's the sands in the hourglass thing, right? Playing a game for 3 hours where you knew what was going to happen after hour 1. It's like, I don't know. It's like the disappointment of the end of Lost, right? Where you're like, this was the thing we guessed in the first episode, and that just ends up being what it is. You guys suck. You made me watch all this smoke monster shit and just ends up being they're dead the whole time. Waifu Night says, what are your favorite indie tabletop war games? I mean, I looked at the Let's Play playlist the other day. I think I have like 300 games on there. I think I've reviewed like 400 games now too. The GMG reviews playlist is getting thick. There's like 3,000 videos, like 3,500 videos now, I think, on GMG. Which completely makes sense because I've been going for 10 years and I've done a video a day roughly. So yeah, there would be 3,600 and change videos if I've been doing this for 10 years come January. Just under 3,600 videos if I'm doing a video every day roughly for 10 years. I've played a lot of indie games. And I don't think I have a favorite, because one of my favorite parts is discovering them. And then having like a catalog of them in my head. I think my favorites have nothing to do with the game. They have to do with who I played it with and the experience. So like when we first played Frostgrave, that's one of my favorite times, because me, Mike, Owen, Jay, we just hadn't played a fantasy skirmish game like that in a long time. So to like get excited about just like going into like your collection of like random loose unpainted D&D minis and pull a warband together out of random stuff, that was such a fun exercise. And then like the fact that I made most of the Frostgrave terrain back then to like big generic fantasy terrain, because you just couldn't get it. This is 10 years ago. You couldn't get it really the way I wanted it. I was like looting pet stores for like aquarium terrain and like repainting it and making this like ruined city. And it was a lot of fun. And that's not necessarily to do with the game. That's to do with the experience I had playing it and discovering it. So I think that's really the right answer, is like, I don't think anything I say is my favorite game is going to have anything to do with the actual miniature game. I love playing like Last War because I loved painting Matt from Knucklebone minis. And he sent me this incredible trench work terrain that I added a bunch of my terrain to, and we had this really cool trench board all of a sudden. And I got to paint minis he sculpted, and he was super kind and sent along this like styrofoam terrain he made. And it was just this wonderful, like, the videos came together so well, and it was so fun. And I did it solo too. It was great. So yeah, I think like that's, to me, it's hard to answer that question. Andrew B says this is for the beer. Oh my God. I'm going to have to just scroll down to the bottom here. I am way behind on these things. I'm going to see where we're actually talking now. Okay, here we go. I enjoyed the one box challenge. I'm now sucked into the Master of Carnage game. Mark says, if Ash does a one box play, I'll try and do a custom accessory token set for the video if needed. Oh, Mark, that'd be awesome. That'd be so fun. We should, okay, yes. I'm super into this idea now. We'll figure out how we're going to do this, because I think doing that will be super fun. And Mark, I know that you are good for like, you can intuit what needs to be made for, because I'm bad at being like, well, we need this token, this token, this token. You'll be way better at me figuring that out. Alan Wong says, I think a 250-point version of Infinity where everyone plays limited insertion and vanilla, no fire teams would be great. I do too. It's funny. That's almost like the Spearheads version. And you know what, Alan, I would go one better. I would say they should have a pre-made list format. Like, forget even the points. It could be 300 then. Because if you've got 10 models, the point values are irrelevant, because the power scale is just going to match. You know what I mean? I think if you did a curated, like, sealed box format for Infinity of, like, pre-made Spearhead style teams, that would, and, like, you had specific scenarios for it. Like, make me a direct action from ITS 16 with these pre-built lists format, where we just play with these lists. I would be so there for that. I think that would do so much more than something like Code 1, because I think it would accomplish all the things Code 1 tried to do by making it approachable and making it easy to learn, but have it be stockable and explainable by retailers. If you just had the new version of Code 1 be something like Spearheads for Infinity, where it's like these, I don't know, 6-8 boxes for all the factions, and they're all just a pre-constructed army list, and they're all just balanced against each other. CB could totally pull that out, and I would be the biggest champion for that format ever, because I think it would take away all of the like conversational objections to Infinity. You just go, no, just this box, and you can do them seasonally, because then afterwards the profiles they're still the profiles from whatever Infinity, they just get rolled in. So every ITS season, you do like a series of 6 boxes, basically. They're this like sealed box format, and there's no like list paralysis. There's no nothing. You can play with them against other lists, and who cares about the power level? But they're all kind of balanced against each other for like the 4 to 5 direct action missions, and you could sell it as a kit. You know what I mean? Where like everybody comes out and they play this like format of like Infinity. I'd be so here for that. People just Jazzing up the one box board game challenge. Awesome. Oh my God, we're already done. I'm going to go another extra half hour. So I'm going to go, because like we haven't gotten caught up yet and I haven't finished the mailbag. So I'll do 90 minutes. It's the FREE-PISODE. Let's get crazy. Let's get crazy and do 90 minutes. Malev says, I'll remind Ash of why I'm standing in his home. It's probably, I like that I'm slowly turning into this doddering old man that someone has to keep an eye on. I'm fine. I'm here for it. I would much rather not have to do that much thinking. I get overwhelmed so easily. Luke Martin says, I hope N5 can hype a couple players around my club. We have some Forbidden Psalms coming in and regular players playing OPR. So much non-GW playing. Wargaming is back. I love that. Lee says, any chance you'll finish the Rangers of Shadow Deep Adventures, the Tenebrous Citadel? I didn't do Across the Waste. I should do the Tenebrous. I should just skip to it. I wasn't so much into that because my miniature collection didn't really match the desert-themed thing. I think Joe wrote that when he was writing the Egypt expansion for Silver Bayonet, and like his mind was just in the desert. And I was like, zombie camels? Like, come on, Joe. My 3D printers, it can't work this hard. I don't know where to find zombie camels. And then Tom says, hi, Ash, it's Spud. I love you and miss you and look forward to playing games once you get around to reading the 10-page document you made me right before I was allowed to visit again. I am going to read that document. Yes, I did read that document, and I lost track of it over the summer. I will definitely do that. Lonely Brick says, I missed out on this, but we'll catch up later and want to drop and say, new Plastic Rohan, yippee. Absolutely, the new Plastic Rohan look fantastic. They're way more heroic scaled, and I think that's just going to make the scale more consistent with like the newer releases. Acrylic Chemist says, did Ash see the new Helm Hanran miniature yet? I did. You mean the punch the size of your face miniature? I posted on the Warhammer Facebook thing when they posted it, and it was just a picture of Farva saying, would you like to upsize your meal for $1.25? And he says, how about I punch the size of your face for free? Nobody liked that. They didn't get the joke. I said he's got Farva energy. Mike Grimshaw says, and just like that, I have to jet. So I'll catch you later. Later, Mike. Have a good one, man. Ben IB says, I made a game about mimics battling each other using a box of dungeon furniture. That's an incredible idea for one box war game. Wild Being says, kind of tempted to get an N5, but super inspired after listening to Miles Cameron's Artifact Space. Artifact Space is really good. Acrylic Cameron says, Freeblade seems to be going into similar rules update process to be more intuitive. I think that's the key right now, right? Of like, you can go deep later, but your initial offer needs to be something that's easy to digest. There's something to be said for taking the legalese out of something. In fact, I said this in my review of this right here, the Kill Team Pro Rulebook. One of the best things this did was get rid of all of the fucking word salad. There was so much extraneous explanation in this, and so much like using words that you could use simpler words to get the same meaning from. You know what I mean? It was like the shapes for movement, like numbers are shapes. You didn't need to, there was nothing about this that was making it easier. It was just, you know, art for the sake of art, basically. Brian Cran says that you can't complain about import costs, versus the gaming world has been dealing with that for decades, and fair enough. Ryan Dumpy says, I'm playing backwards through all the Far Cry games now, and I love that series. I'm playing Far Cry 6 right now, mostly just because Giancarlo Esposito's in it, and that makes me happy. It's an okay game. I don't know. It's something about, like, it kind of goes back to the original Far Cry, which I wasn't a huge fan of. I like it when they're set in weird places. Dark Zerg Kill says, the book for N5 is just hobby and background, no rules. That makes sense. I hope they take the time to get it right. Luke Martin says, I forgot to mention all these alternative games are often proposed to the group by your channel viewers, hence my hope for N5. Yeah, that's my plan, is to like get N5 kind of like out there in a couple of different videos that are designed for either people who've played older editions of Infinity or people that are coming out for the first time. And then we're going to bring the podcast back too. Now, Owen and I are already talking about that stuff, and Dan. Nuclear Kid says, reminds me of the Cadwallon rulebook by Rakamos, like trying to weird outsider art. I have that rulebook, and I love that rulebook mostly just because it is full of like Paul Bonner and Tony DiDelurzi art. It's got incredible art in it, and it's mostly gibberish. It's like the hybrid board game, which I have in the back, which I was going to try and play recently as like a throwback Thursday, and was just like, oh my god, it is this so hard to read. Gary Jensen's here. Hey, first time not as a filthy free peeper. Thank you, Gary. And then Alan says, oh yeah, pre-made sealed box Spearhead for Infinity N5 would be so into. They kind of already have that with the boxes. They just need to rebalance. Such a good idea. Bonus content. I mean, I could do this bonus content for real. I do think, and then Don says goodbye. See you, Don. Have a good one, man. I do think that honestly doing like, Terrace is going 90 minutes. Someone's riding the coffee high. No, I gotta get to the mailbag. You guys got me talking today because I got excited about stuff. I do think that doing something like a sealed box format fits Infinity, and doing that is so much easier than just writing an entirely new game, right? You could do it with QR codes, so that like your pre-made army list is just like on the box basically, and you scan it with your phone. You have your first army list as a PDF instantly on your phone. You could give them like, you could do something fun too, like you do like a unique profile just for that season too. So like that actually, you know what? That's the smartest way to do it. You do it seasonal, you do 6. So you do like an Ariadne one, you do a Pano one, Nomad one, an Aleph one, an O12 one, a Combined Army one, a Hakazlan one. I guess there's 7 then. Did I miss anybody? Yu Chang, 8? 8? It was 5 in the beginning, but they've added O12. Yeah, they've added O12, they've added Aleph, and they've added JSA now as well. So what you do is you do those armies, but you keep like a profile in those box sets being like unique to that box for the season. And that way they don't just immediately get outclassed by the ones that are the main armies. I think that's a smart way of doing it, and it would give some value to the box and something interesting. You make like a cool piece, and it can go into the main ecosystem like after the season ends and the boxes get replaced. But I think that's what they're trying to do with the reinforcement boxes with these unique profiles. You could do something way better where you have this curated format, 300-point list. It's only 10 models, so it's super easy to play if they're just starting out. And it has a unique piece of value that's just for that year, and then it goes out into the main ecosystem. So yeah, so you can only use this minute, like it just has a addendum. It just says this profile is only available to this specific army list and for this ITS season, and then you have that in the ITS document. You know what I mean? Like, so you can see it in army or whatever, and you can add to an army list if you want to play with it at home. But like for playing ITS events, that miniature is only legal basically to be included in that like starter army list or whatever. Yeah. Just hire me, CB. Just let me do product design for you. Come on. Like, you know, y'all know. Y'all know we can do it. The JDI says, why does GW like word salad so much? It's always on the menu. I'll be honest, it's imported bias. It's people who've come from the gaming ecosystem thinking they can solve... I think the greatest lie we tell ourselves is that we can balance miniature games. You can't balance miniature games. You just can't. Points can't balance miniature games. Points are just an agreement on how long the game lasts. That's it. There is no balancing a miniature game. You will be doing it forever. It is a endless pit. Because the problem is that when you have, I don't know, how many profiles in 10th edition 40k they have to balance? Like 1,100 or something crazy like that. When you change something, all that happens is something else becomes the thing that people go to abuse. Something else becomes the best possible option. Because there's too many permutations of what you play for versus what you have. And they're trying to control everything from the terrain setup to the point values to the profiles now. And it's like, that is a money pit, an energy pit, and time pit. Because what are you trying to produce by doing that? You're trying to produce customer satisfaction. Does anyone really think that that's ever a job that gets finished? Do you ever satisfy the people whose actual hobby is to find the next thing to complain about or to abuse? No, because you're at competitive purposes. You're trying to solve the problem they don't want solved. Because as soon as you close a hole, they go looking for the next one. And that becomes the thing they complain about. And as soon as you release something new, they find the thing to abuse about it. So it's just an endless cycle of violence. Like, it doesn't end ever. And so the word salad comes from that attempt to close every loophole in what you're saying out loud. And it just becomes incomprehensible. You can't cover everything in your document. It just doesn't work. It's just too much. And you're constantly tweaking the thing yourself as you release new things, because you're also not allowed to stop. If they could stop tomorrow and never produce anything again and never make anything new for the game, then they'd be okay. They might eventually get to somewhere where it's relatively balanced in 10 years, right? But they can't because they're competing against themselves too, bringing new stuff out all the time. It is just a fucking black hole, an absolute black hole. And the worst part is it's a black hole that's now monetized because people like me on the internet literally make money sitting in front of geeky shit on the wall talking about how it's ruining somebody's hobby, inflaming people about it. You know what I mean? And chasing the algorithmic outrage or best advice. Here's the best way to break it, or here's the worst, just whatever this internet hand job is that you're trying to get today to make some more money. So that's why there's word salad, and it is a goddamn vortex of doom that I am too old for. Don't care about anymore. Tom Q says you just can't include Ariadne in the pre-made spearhead style boxes. Trash people too cheap. It's just 10 ratniks. That's all it is, Tom. It's just 10 guys in like power loaders from Aliens walking around trying to make it happen. They're not trash people. They just live on the garbage planet with werewolves, or the werewolf planet with garbage. But they also have unobtainium. I don't know. I didn't make up sci-fi. It's just the tropes, man. Chommy Bet says Freeblade's rules are a nightmare to get through. It's written as if it's a reference material, not a how to play. I mean, that's where like the art in writing a rule book, I think, comes in. And you see somebody get it so right the first time that you kind of think it's obvious that everybody knows how this is supposed to work. And then you get major companies that don't get it, that don't get that there's like an actual like, there's some kind of hard science behind how people absorb information and then have to interact with it. A teaching document where you need to tell, show, have a go, which is an old training term for like when you want someone to be able to, if you're a person that has the information you're standing there and you want somebody else to take the information and go do it, there's a process that just works. You tell them something, then you show them how it works, and then you let them go try it. That's how a rule book should be laid out. It should be in the temporal order that you do things, right? So the stuff that they need to accumulate and do before they even start to try needs to come at the beginning. Then the showing them how that's going to lay out and act out is going to be the next part. And then the have a go part is the first game, the demo, the read this first material that you go through and you play so that you can have an experience. And then there's like a rinse repeat next step so you can get better at doing it. If your rulebook's not laid out that way, it's a reference. It's not actually a rulebook. It's not actually a teaching aid. It's a reference aid. And that's okay, but that should be like an appendix to a rulebook, right? That should be the thing that once you've read the rulebook, you then go and refer to while you're playing the game. Some people just release the appendix and think that that's going to teach someone how their game works, I think, which is bad. Kevin Boyd says there was a Transformers game that used to play, and what was it called? So it wasn't a Transformers game. It was a game called Bot War of like Saturday morning cartoons, because it also had Mask and G.I. Joe in it. But it was like a tongue-in-cheek reference to Saturday morning cartoons game, and it was called Bot Wars. And recently, I think Shut Up and Sit Down literally 3D printed a bunch of Transformers and reskinned a bunch of Bot Wars stuff and played a game with it, which I thought was really funny. And saying, we made a Transformers game. And it's like, no, you didn't. You just 3D printed a bunch of Transformers and played Bot Wars with it. And I was like, come on, guys. Like, one, like, you're getting that guy in trouble potentially if people start confusing him as having made a Transformers game. He didn't. He made a Saturday morning cartoons game that's a bunch of like, it's like Fallout. It's a bunch of like nods and pokes and references. It's very much not trying to infringe on somebody's IP, and then immediately blew it up by using the IP that is one of the nods at it and been like, we just played this game. We made a Transformers game. It's like, what are you guys doing? Oh my God. That's such a, so stupid. But yes, it was called Bot Wars. It's a great game. Ian Milton Davies says, wow, I actually managed to catch this live. Well, we're going long. I'm going to go to the mailbag in a second. I'm just going to, oh my God, there's so much I've missed. Other people saying balance is impossible. Balance would be two identical teams. Any one faction in a single miniature game that has more units than StarCraft, AoE, etc. has been balanced for almost a decade. Balance is impossible. Is chefs even balanced? Someone has to move first. Yeah. Game balancing is an endless cycle of violence as a t-shirt. Atragon X says, yeah, I think so. Ian Millington Davies says, that's why Horus Heresy works so well as you have Marines versus Marines. You're right. Yeah. It's why introducing too much crap, I think, broke Horus Heresy, right? Where like you had these weird other power scaled creeped things that took it And Brian Grant says, not what my gaming coach tells me. That's because he wants you to keep paying him, Brian. He's going to tell you that there's balance. It's like a gym coach that tells you that if you just eat these 3 things and do these 3 exercises, you'll become healthy. That's not what healthy means. Kuda says, I know cribbage is definitely not balanced, and tactics is going first with the crib or last vary. 100%. Atrax says, my coach keeps demanding to know who I am and why I keep bothering him during his Little League practices. Oh my God, everyone's just comparing cribbage to this now. Very funny. Malev says, I've completely changed my writing style for Great Helm as an experiment, and it's been 200% better getting people to understand my rules. Amazing. That's awesome. Kuda says, it was game night that did Transformers. There you go, game night. I knew it was one of those, like, I don't really know what these guys do, but they seem to all get together and make, like, a video that makes 500,000 views, so yay. Good job. Yes, that was games night then, not shut up and sit down. They're all interchangeable to me. Group of like millennials sit around in their tattoos and I can't tell if they're a comedy troupe or if they're playing a game or not. Okay, back to the mailbag. All right. Atragonex says, Ash, how the hell do you know about Samurai Pizza Cats? You're like 10 years older than I am, and I saw it show in middle school. It was an absurd time on weekday mornings, too. It was a standard Canadian teenage viewing. So, Samurai Pizza Cats was on YTV in, like, the late 80s, early 90s. It is an old Japanese TV show. Like, super old. And it was syndicated in North America around the same time that Sailor Moon got syndicated because it had, like, 200 episodes. So, they got it for no money. They could play it like round the clock, and it was hilariously like dubbed. Like the dubs for Samurai Pizza Cats were out of control. It was like what was the game show? It was like Takeshi's Castle or something like that. It had a different name in North America though, and it was just people falling down basically and injuring themselves. It was that Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. It was that level of like dubbed. And that's how I know. Gene29 says, okay, so a person haunting numerous discords, I keep finding the same type of conversation. It's the speculation train on any new edition, like currently Kill Team. It's the infantry sucks conversation in Old World. It's no matter what, Games Workshop's killing my models that I don't even play. I'll approach this complaint from a growth mindset of good intentions. How do you steer that sinkhole soulsucker conversation to something meaningful, something that builds the community for that game? Also, how did you get the blue for your Kill Team Focus and 40k set? I watched the video but couldn't remember hearing the spray paints and dry brush parts of this awesome blue. So it's actually brown as the base coat, and then it's Rust-Oleum chalked like blue, whatever their blue-gray is. So the Rust-Oleum chalked paint series, it's like chalkboard paint. It's a spray can. I use that. That's the blue I use. You can see the actual spray can in the how I painted a table of 40k train in a morning video, which has almost like 100,000 views on it. It's like 75,000 views or something crazy like that. That video has all the paints actually laid out, so you can check them out there. And then it's dry brushed with, I'm going to draw a blank, Longbeard Gray, I think is the Citadel dry paint I use. That's the dry paint I used. As for the first question, how do you get people to stop being in a place where that's the conversation they have? I don't think you can do it on the internet. I'll be honest. I can talk any of my friends out of that place because usually what I can do is I can validate their feeling and I can go like, yeah, that really sucks. Like you put a lot of time and effort into painting that thing that you really cared about and it feels like it's going away for you. So I can totally validate that feeling for you. Like that's a shitty feeling. Like I'm sorry that you feel that way. And then I usually balance it out with, I usually focus on ... And it's that I really like those miniatures that I have. I've been doing this for 25 years and I just get excited with the thing I get to do next. Like when my miniature collections don't get used anymore, I'm still really happy with the experiences I had with them and they go in the box and I don't worry about it anymore. Because the process for me is the loop of build, paint, play, build, paint, play, build, paint, play, and I get to look forward to the next loop of what I got to do. And because these miniature games typically, like Old World's kind of an exception, where I can kind of understand people getting bummed about it because like it's a really big blood price to play a game with like 200 miniatures in it. Like it sucks when those go away. They didn't necessarily go away. They're just not super powerful anymore. So I do kind of get that like that's not the same thing. And I guess the argument I would make with Kill Team is just like, but you can use them as NPOs in joint ops. Yeah, they don't do the same thing anymore, but things change. Like it sucks. The difference is, and the conversation that I think might work on the internet is, so do you want me to feel the same way as you, or do you just want me to tell you that it sucks that you feel that way and you're valid in feeling that way? Because that's one thing that you can kind of push back with. Like, I don't agree with you. I'm not going to feel the same way as you. I get that it sucks, and I totally emphasize that it sucks, and I think you're totally, you're eligible to have that reaction. Here's the reaction I'm having. I'm excited that there's new stuff that I get to try and new models I get to paint, because I like painting miniatures, and I like building new collections, and I like having new experiences. And I focus on that stuff because I can't control what goes away. And I'm grateful for the time I had building and painting. I don't look at it as an investment. And I also don't look at it as like a sunk cost that I can no longer do anything with. I don't need to have the same value out of those miniatures forever, because that's just going to change. And letting go of things is something that I'm just capable of like doing. And so when it comes down to like them trying to convince you that you should feel the way they do, you can just disagree and be like, well, that's not going to change though. Like, is that the argument we're having right now? Do you want me to also be mad? Because I'm not, and I'm not going to be. And if that's what you want, like, that's not okay. Like, if you want me to be mad, fine. I think that you're valid in being mad, and I respect your feeling, and I respect your point of view, but that's how I feel. And it's okay that we disagree. And then you let it go, because those people probably weren't going to play Kill Team with you or Infinity N5 with you or whatever anyway. And that kind of sucks for them, not for you, because you'll get to play it against people who are excited about it. Brian Cran says, you've spoken before about IPs like Mutant Chronicles and Confrontation that suffer from the curse of undeath, where they keep coming back for nostalgia, but consumer confidence decreases each time they fail. Have any games besides Battletech managed to do the opposite? Dark Age almost did, and then the company pulled the rug out from under it because they just wanted to be a board game company because it was easier, because they thought it was too much effort, not a lot of return. Dark Age almost made the comeback for the same reason Battletech did. They got a really good product offer going. They got modern aesthetics going. They got really good sculpts going. And it had been dead long enough that what you're actually waiting for isn't for the people who remember you to go away. It's for the industry to grow so there's enough new people who've never heard of you that they'll take it on board, that there's a demand again. And a little bit that those stores also go out of business and people who remember you are just going to be gone, right? That's just the way it's going to be. I honestly can think of very few besides Dungeons and Dragons. And I'll be honest, it sounds weird to say that, but Dungeons and Dragons was in that place when TSR went out of business, when Wizards first bought them. Like, I don't know if you guys remember D&D 3 and D&D 4 weren't as popular as D&D 5 was. D&D 5 really did something. And it was combined with like a cultural movement of like nostalgia, things like Stranger Things and Big Bang Theory and like a bunch of media stuff that made D&D popular again. That kind of brought it back from life support, because it's really easy to forget that D&D went out of business. Like TSR's, their novel arm put them out of business. And a lot of people just forget this. Like, the only reason Wizards of the Coast owns them is because one Christmas they printed and sold a gajillion like novels to big booksellers like Barnes & Noble and at the time Borders in the US. And they didn't sell over Christmas. And then they returned them. And they were living like paycheck to paycheck at that point. And when they got returned and they had to take all that stock back, they had to give back that money, and it just tanked them. They just completely just overnight were like, I guess we're done. And there wasn't a great deal of consumer confidence in D&D properties for probably 5 to 10 years after that. D&D was kind of quaint, and there was a lot of competition out there. There was Pathfinder, which had blown up, right? Because when they sold to Wizards of the Coast, D&D 3 was so unlike Advanced Dungeons & Dragons that Advanced Dungeons & Dragons just became Pathfinder at one point. And they were very much just the same game because of the OGL. Like, if you're going to change the game out completely with D&D 3, which was a lot more like a World of Warcraft, kind of like everyone had a role, and there was tanks and healers, and it was trying to be something that D&D kind of wasn't. Like, they really fumbled around for a while with D&D. And it wasn't until 5e, really, that D&D kind of came back. And it struggled for a long time to get back into a place of prominence, but you could not buy a D&D rulebook at a major bookseller like you can now. It was the one that I think is probably the most prominent that people don't really think of as being that way. And it's kind of going back. I guess we'll see, but it's kind of going back. Matt says, any plans for a Let's Play of Maladum Dungeons of Enveron? I needed core space 5 years ago, and this is the fantasy version. I want to get your opinion on the game, as it kind of crosses the realms of board games and miniature games, and even RPGs to some extent. Somewhat expensive, but maybe a jumping on point for new hobbyists, as it draws from so many directions. They sent me an email I have to respond to yet. I have about 50 company emails that I need to respond to that I just didn't, that have piled up over the summer. Because like I just can't respond to all of them, and I got to kind of pick and choose, but it was on my radar for sure. Alan Wong says, did you take a look at the one-page war games? There are over 50 completed entries in 2 months. It was a blast and crazy how many completed. And your thoughts? Well, we're going to have a big conversation, me and Malev, about that when he's got the list curated for me. And then Ian Millington Davies says, have you got any plans for a YouTube live stream with the weekend games you've talked about recently? Yes, but it'll be for patrons only. So I just did, if you guys are in the GMG guest calendar Facebook group, you've probably seen me put up the dates for November or for October. November is going to have the first call outs because I want to use October to get ready for it. And then November is going to be when we start doing the first recording sessions for it, because I need people to come in over October, collect the miniatures for their contribution to us doing these things, and then come back. So like, for instance, for Hero Quest, I need to get 4, we're going to use the app to run the bad guys. I need to get 4 other participants. We all got to pick and paint our heroes, and then we got to divide up what monsters we're going to need for that adventure, and then decide how we're going to do all the painting and stuff like that. And then we'll do it like where we're going to, we plan 3 missions basically. So we got to curate 3 missions, and we're not going to redo the Hero Quest core box because I've done that with the original Hero Quest. We're going to do a new adventure basically that adds on to that from the new series. So October is like the behind, and you'll see the stuff behind the scenes too, but I got Chase already volunteering. I need 2 more people to volunteer for Hero Quest. I need more people to come back for Spearheads so we can keep doing Spear Tips. And then there's one other I want to do live. Because Spearheads isn't going to be live. Probably the Kill Team stuff is next. Although I haven't decided. I think Hero Quest is one. I'll probably do a random board game. Maybe I'll do Hero Quest. No, because I want it to be for November. Yeah, Hero Quest is the big one, and I'll probably put in something else for live recording. Like maybe we'll do Betrayal in October, because there's no prep needed for that. I just need to invite people in, and we can test the format on Betrayal, and then and maybe we'll also do Don't Look Back. Because then I don't have to have, there's no lifting, there's no like big project work to do. So I think we'll probably do Betrayal and Don't Look Back as live recordings, because I can just scoop people into it. And then we'll do the actual, like my plan for like Saturday Skirmish will be to do the actual like planned one starting in November when I've got the project work like put together. So that's the mailbag. Oh my God, we're coming up in the end. Let's go talk to the chat and say goodbye to everybody. Can't believe there's still 100 people watching. This is crazy. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Parting thoughts. Okay, so yes. Okay, I'm gonna have big words from Andrew if I don't remind myself to talk about Patreon. This all runs because of Patreon. I don't make high view content because I focus on indie games and the less popular side of pop culture gaming, like Games Workshop games like Kill Team, Legions Imperialis. I don't care. I don't want to do stuff that's boring, or that everybody else is doing. So the number one way that the studio keeps going is through Patreon. We have about 100 less patrons than we did this time last year. And that's mostly due to the fact that the world sucks right now, and everything is more expensive than it used to be. I spend about $250 a week on groceries for my kids, which is madness. So if you do have a chance to pitch in and help out, my big push for this coming year, and we've basically made it a year since I started the studio renovations, and they're kind of done. So what I'm trying to do right now is add value to Patreon so you guys get more of this. You obviously get the live shows every week where you get to hang out and see what's going on behind the scenes. We do things like studio tours. We do live behind the scenes recording. We're going to plan to start doing Skirmish Saturday with some more like patron driven content. We're bringing back starting this weekend for the first week, we're back Grimdark Media, and like watch throughs of like weird dark movies, books, and film. Sorry, movies are film, movies, books, and games. As we did like a whole bunch of that in the previous year, and I'm gonna have other people coming in to do that, not just Jay. And yeah, and then like access to pre-release content and exclusive content, like the campaign stuff that I do for various indie games and skirmish games, and just more access to being part of the community and driving what gets made here. And then coming in and recording too. So huge thanks to everybody who is a patron on Patreon. This is obviously a big part of what I do here. Is I like the I only can continue doing this and have the energy for this because the like-minded people that are part of my community keep me going. My favorite part of my week is interacting with you guys, seeing what everybody's been doing, honestly talking out loud about what I've been doing, because I'm by myself 90% of the time. So while a lot of people I think get worn out by doing this kind of live show stuff, I get really energized by it because it just makes me feel like I'm not by myself screaming into the void. Having like actual real-time chat to like catch up with and talk to is a huge deal for me. And having that like reinforcement that the content's interesting and that you guys get to be a part of it, I think is just kind of my big focus and goal going forward, because I need to get the patron numbers up. I need to get to probably 800 or 1,000 patrons for this to be something that can stay the way it is. And we're at like 650 right now. We've lost about 10 to 15 a month since last September. Without the growth rate, like catching up to it, just because like, and every single one of them has sent a message of just like, man, everything's really rough right now. I wish I could keep being a patron. I'll catch you on the free episodes. I'll keep coming on YouTube. Like just this like super nice supportive stuff of like, I know it's not me. It's just that the world sucks right now. So if you do have a chance to jump on Patreon, and help out, it would make this continue going and mean that I have less time that I have to hustle doing things to make money on the side so that I can focus on making stuff here. And I think that just improves the quality of the content. So I hope you guys enjoyed this free episode and hanging out and picking my brain. Man, we got so much coming up. It's going to be exciting. I'm really excited for Blackout. I'm really excited for how small this rulebook is. I'm so pumped for N5 because obviously it's one of my favorite games of all time. I'm so pumped. I'll be honest. I'm really excited to be making like slightly mainstream adjacent content again that I'm not bored by, because it's at a scale that I actually want to engage with it. You know what I mean? Like I can paint 10 miniatures and play a game that I enjoy. I'm really pumped about the new recording format, the 4-camera multicam format, but I'm doing my editing in camera. I think it looks really good. The camera's steady and not shaky and not flying around. I do have some stuff I want to improve with the dice camera, maybe putting it in a corner in the future. That will let me tighten up on the table a little bit as well. So there's some other stuff that's kind of like in the works here. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, and just keep on keeping on and bringing in new games. Because now I can actually get back to doing what I'm good at, which is bringing new things like Blackout in and finishing off, projects I wanted to do forever, like the Hero Quest thing and all that stuff. So it's been great hanging out with everybody. It's been great talking to everybody who's been... Oh shit, Greg Law just said, hey, do you want to work with Warhammer Combat cards? I do want to work with Warhammer Combat cards. That's actually one of the emails I have to get back to. I think somebody emailed me about it because I talked about how combat cards was the thing that I was doing on the treadmill every day. I should say, it's funny, thank you for reminding me of that, Greg, because that's something I was going to say is we have such a huge number of people in the GMG combat cards clan now. I kept looking at it the other day and I was like, oh my God, they're challenging each other to the game. They're actually playing. I just play like literally every day on the treadmill. There's a whole bunch of people in the GMG's combat guards like group now, which is very funny. People having friendly battles against each other. That made me so happy the other day. But yeah, I'm always on combat cards, getting my rewards and getting my cards. And it's funny, and this is going to be exactly what the combat cards people don't want me to say. I haven't spent a dime on combat cards. I don't think Cash may have without telling me, which I'd be upset about, but we play all the time. And it is definitely the most fun free-to-play, tinkering around stuff app game I think I've played for GW games on the phone. I would love to work with combat cards. I'll stand for combat cards. Man, Jesus, that'd help out a lot if I can get some ad money. That'd be really good. So yeah, I hope you guys all have a great week. I hope you guys get all of your whatever wish fulfillment coming from all the new releases, whatever you're into, indie games, skirmish games, GW games. We're coming into Christmas, which means there's going to be a million launches. And honestly, the stuff that's coming out right now is really good. I feel like there's been some waking up to just how like overbearing and dominated by gobbledygook and too big a lot of stuff has been, and seeing companies try and make it simpler and easier and more fun and focusing on like having games be accessible in the near future is something I can really get behind. So I think we're in for a good season of releases that I can engage with in a way that makes me happy and that doesn't take like a million years to prep and play. And it's going to make great video and great fun times for us to all hang out, interact with, and have goofy, silly moments, and means that more people can come in here and enjoy this space. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys probably on Wednesday next week for the actual like patron sit and chat, because I try and alternate Mondays and Wednesdays just so more people can actually like be part of it and hang out. And yeah, if you guys are part of I guess no, that's not going to be until the week after that. I'm trying to think of like if there's any holidays or things coming out I need to show, but I don't think there is. So yeah, if you're part of, if you're excited about Kill Team, I think it launches this coming weekend. So get excited about that. Obviously the N5 quick start rules went up, so go check those out, and go check out Blackout. Go check out their website. And tell me what you think, because this little rulebook looks really cool. Oh, and that's that indie game we were just talking about too, the one with the monster hunting thing. Wait, I'll grab the name because I still have it in my Google search. It's called Devilry Afoot by NL Wright. Go check it out on. It's got 5-star rating right now on Wargames Vault, and is a silver bestseller. So it looks like it came out in 2024. If you like folk horror and you like solo and co-op games against monsters, go check that out too. It's only $10 on Wargames Vault. I have no idea if it's great, good, or amazing, but it could be any one of those three things. And if not, it's probably a good time, because all miniature games are a good time. There's no such thing as a great miniature game. There's just great time spent with good people. So find your friends, find a theme that you like, and play some miniature games. And I will see you guys on Wednesday. Or if you're one of the FREE-PISODE watchers, I will see you at the end of next month in the final Monday show, where we get to hang out and chat. So if you're having a great week or having a great month, either way, bye everybody.